Hello, hello. So tonight we're not doing an ASMR stream, but we are doing an ASMR-ish stream. We're just gonna have a chill time, keep it kind of whisperish and quiet and relaxing, and see how that goes. I just started off streaming recently, so now I think is the best time to experiment with things and try different things and see how they go and see if they're fun. I can do even more of a whisper. If you'd like, if you come into the chat, just let me know if you'd prefer me to whisper or just talk low. I'm happy to do either. Okay. So tonight I'm probably gonna cover a lot of the initial things I did in the last stream again. So I'm going to just quickly announce things about the Discord and the projects. Then I'm gonna get into the meat of tonight, which is finishing off Barbarian with Magic Initiated. I actually spent some time creating a little sheet, and instead of going through all of the different spells like I did last time, which I think took way too long, I've kind of narrowed it down to some top ones. So I'm going to go through very quickly their utility and their best use, and then I'm going to talk in like a more hushed voice for a bit rather than the whispered voice. We're going to go through the options for Magic Initiate, and we're going to put a pin in that for a while, and I'll make a decision about what I'll play in game, like later before the actual campaign starts, which is quite a way off. But I'll just go through the options divided by class and talk about it one more time, and then we'll put that to bed for good for now on the stream. And after that, I'm going to go into Roll20, and what we're going to do in Roll20 is set up some macros for the new character. So we're going to start off with some very simple ones: health, attack, defense, that sort of thing. Just where I like to set up the stats and where my group usually puts everything. Then to round off the stream, what I am going to do is we are going to draw a blank, even though we thought of it just a second ago. Okay. Barbarian Initiate and blah blah. Magic Initiate for Barbarian. Then Roll20 macros. Oh, and then live encounter. That's the third thing I'm gonna do. I should write that down. What we're gonna do as the last thing is a little bit of co-working. I'm gonna think about what I'm gonna do with my plan to do like live little D&D events here on the stream. So I can't really do it till I have a couple of regular viewers or regular people who tune in. What I'm gonna do is like little live D&D events, maybe once a stream or once a week. We'll see how it works out. I'm still getting the details together as to exactly how I want to roll that out. Well, I'll go into detail on it later. Yeah. Okay. So I'll go over sort of announcy bits again. So my schedule is up on the Discord and on Twitter and now on Blue Sky, and it is also now set up in Twitch if you go to the schedule panel. Yesterday was regular D&D yapping. Today we're trying something a little more ASMR-y, and I just went over the other things we'll talk about today. And on Thursday we are going to be playing Dragon Age Origin, which is the first game I'm going to be playing on the stream. kind of the middle whisper is a little rough on my throat. So I'm probably going to go between light speaking and whispering just to stretch my vocal cords and give me a rest one way and do it the other. As I said, if you have a preference, please say so in the chat, and I'll try to keep my voice at that level. It's just going to be a chill, easy stream. That's what we're going for. Okay, so the Discord, Rainbird by Design, Dungeon HQ. You will probably find a link to it under either of the VODs and on Twitch in my information panel. It is a D&D TTRPG RP Discord. There's a section for art, there's a section for meme, and there is also a casual RP channel. And now that I remember it, I'm going to remember to publish the announcement that I'm live on there. And we are also going to announce that we are live on our other social medias until I have it set up to go out to everything automatically. Apparently you have to pay for API access on Twitter/X, so that might be something I do down the line, but right now I don't want to spend any money just to do notifications on Twitter when I can post it manually. So we posted on Twitter. Excellent. I'll give a shout out on Blue Sky as well. Blue Sky. And I am Rainbird by Design on all of your nearest social medias. Okay, where is new post? Paste. Perfect. Loading. Okay. Now we've announced live on all of our social medias. Perfect. Okay. Where was I? Discord. That's what reminded me to publish the announcements. I really should remember to do that every stream. Okay. We've had a couple of new people join the Discord, so you're all super very welcome. Rusty Tavern is still, or Rusty Tankard, I should say, is still open. That is our casual RP server, or channel. For casual RP, obviously, I just said that, it's in the name. Is there anything else I need to shout out? Build a Bean is our channel for working on a stat block for our little mascot down here, the grizzly bean. We are also doing a monster stat block. It is all in 5e for now, but I will do conversions for other systems if there is any requests for that. Gonna take off my hat. No, I'm not. Okay, gotta relaunch StreamerBot again. So if anyone knows about StreamerBot, I have the stream.deck through StreamerBot, and it keeps disconnecting from StreamerBot, and then I have to relaunch it again, close it and relaunch it in order to reconnect to my deck so it will actually work. And that is very frustrating because it usually happens right before I want to use one of my hotkeys on my model. So it is connecting. is connected to everything. Top hat gone. Okay. I'm gonna leave the dark eyes for now. I usually turn them off, but they're quite fun. They make me look menacing. Okie dokie. So, mentioned the Discord and the projects, mentioned the schedule. Excellent. So I am gonna go to our display space, this monitor up on the top left. My right, your left, your right. I'm gonna go into this monitor in the top right, which is our little computer screen world. Go. There we go. Still getting used to, oh, the dynamic lighting looks nice with the dark eyes, doesn't it? Yeah, I think so. Alright, so this is my messy to-do list. This is what I was working on for Magic Initiate. So Magic Initiate is a feat that lets you take 2 cantrips and 1 first level spell from a class. You can't mix and match, so it is... Let's put some boxes around that. That one. Just gonna box them all off. So you kind of have your options like this. I went through the entire spell list yesterday, which took a really long time on stream. I probably shouldn't have. I think that got pretty boring and monotonous, but I've broken it down into these. Okay. So the options for the Magic Initiate feat are Bard, Druid, Warlock, Wizard, Cleric, and Sorcerer. I have removed Sorcerer because it is just filled with redundancies for Wizard or Warlock. There's not really any point in picking Sorcerer over either of those two, because you essentially get the same options either way. I removed a lot of concentration spells I don't see the purpose of, and because this barbarian specifically is a plasmoid, I removed a lot of things that didn't really fit the flavor at all, and might have added a few things that do fit that specific character better, because I think flavor is always something you could strive for. And then retexturing or changing spells, not mechanically but in description of how they are visually to fit with it. So this was my final list. There's also get the name real quick. I don't have the name they prefer to be used online handy, but one of my players / DMs in the YouTube VOD of the stream before last when I was talking about this, they gave like a top 5 that they would choose, so I took their recommendations as well for narrowing it down. So Wizard sort of has the largest number of options, and Cleric has the fewest, but they are particularly strong options. How do I zoom in? Okay, is that readable? Better be. Okay. Okay. I didn't mean to put Blade Ward on the list. I just got it mixed up with Sword Burst, so we can ignore that straight off the back. There are a lot of spells that have out-of-combat utility that seem quite fun and fitting for the character, so you could reflavor Mage Hand as the Plasmoid pseudopod that extends even further, like a second pseudopod. Mending is just always a useful one to have, in my opinion. A lot of people say it's not a useful spell. I have to disagree. In all the campaigns I've played, it has been super useful. I think I mentioned in the last stream a specific use case is when you have, say, been attacked by a bunch of bandits and you get all of their old damaged gear that they were carrying. You can fix it all up using the mending spell and then sell it on for full price. There's also, if it's taken into account by your DM, maintenance on your own equipment. That's very useful. Message is just an all-around useful spell for communicating somewhat secretively. I've seen some arguments as to whether or not the whisper component of the spell is out loud. I would say no personally if I'm DMing. Maybe someone might hear incoherent whispers, but I think the spell itself, in my use or in my DMing, I would say that no one else can hear the actual words of the spell, so they might be able to tell that you're using it. One of the other somatic components is also pointing at someone, so it might be clear you're using message, but I don't think the message itself, I would say, is clearly audible to others. So it's a nice secret way of getting messages across to other people. That's the way I like to run it anyway. If you want to take a more by-the-book literal interpretation at your table, that's absolutely fine. I would just say my way is a more fun way to run it, and I worked at Blizzard, so I'm obviously more correct. Prodigitation, I don't think I need to go into prodigitation. That's just generally useful spell. Unless you don't play D&D, you'll know prodigitation is a useful spell. And so many utilities for so many different reasons. Yeah, just it adds so much flavor. It's just so much fun. Just trust me, bro. Prodigitation and thaumaturgy, I think, are two of the best RP spells, just so you can do those little effects around your character that they don't necessarily have the ability to do by the book. Yeah. And Thunderclap I put in from the Bard table just because it's the only solid AoE option. I think that's one of the things, especially a low-level barbarian would be missing, especially if they don't have multi-attack or if they're surrounded. Having the possibility of doing a little AoE cantrip is always nice, so that's the reason I left that in for the Bard option. Then for first level spells for the Bard, I was looking at Featherfall. If you're in a situation where you are falling and you don't particularly want to tank the damage, or you could save your friends, I think you'd be better off dropping Rage and using Featherfall as a reaction than, you know, falling to your horrible death with your friends. That seems like a high utility spell. Also, you might not be raging or in combat when a fall happens, so that's a good save. Many a campaign I have been in has been ground to a complete halt by a chasm. I do recall one time So we were doing a pretty big campaign, reasonably high level characters in 3.5, and we had so much trouble crossing a chasm that we actually just gave up and took a completely different branch of the campaign options. We really did just give up and go the other way. It was mostly getting our pet unicorn across the chasm that I think caused the biggest issue. We just didn't have any way to magically fly or, push a log over. It was a real sort of Wile E. Coyote chasm, like Grand Canyon, sort of, maybe 50 to 100 feet. Sidetrack there. Healing Word is just, I think, a really handy just to pick up an ally who's been downed, especially as a bonus action. Not something you'd want to drop rage for, but since you only have it once a day, it is nice just to have that pick up a friend, especially at the end of combat. You don't want someone lying there doing death rolls and you can't do anything about it. It's one of the few ranged healing options you can get at such a low level as well, so there's a lot of utility to that. Silvery Barbs, I talked about yesterday, is just the best and most balanced spell in the game with no issues whatsoever, and should be available at every table. At me, bro. And that is kind of my top picks for Bard. There are probably other options that other people might think of. This is just my breakdown of what would fit for the character I'm making. Then we have Le Druid. I was thinking about Primal Savagery, but I decided against that because why wouldn't I just attack with my Great Club or my Axe? So any cantrip that is just a non-ranged attack with like a lower roll, because it would be using the spell modifier instead of strength. I just sort of ruled that out because I don't see why I'd want to spend an action for an attack that would have a lower chance of hitting and lower damage than just using my action to do a regular attack with whatever weapon I have available. So I did pick Thorn Whip for this particular build. The idea is going Path of Giants, and when we get to level 10 we get that really cool ability with our extra reach. From 15 feet we can throw allies and enemies to other parts of the field. I think that gives a really big sort of battlefield control element to the character, and I think Thorn Whip is quite a fun thing to pair with that because it allows you to move an enemy towards you. I think is it 10 or 20 feet? I'm not actually going to look up the spells because I just want to breeze through this quite quickly at the start of stream and move on. But that is a spell that lets you pull enemies towards you. It does a little bit of damage. Probably not the best chance to hit, but it's something you can spam because it's cantrip, so it's free. And once you pull them into range, then you can throw them off a cliff or whatever you want to do. Shape Water is a super powerful and useful spell, but it's one that requires a bit of imagination to use. Things like freezing the ground on front of an enemy charging towards you to make them slip, or pouring water into a lock and then freezing it. So the power of that particular spell does depend a lot on the DM and the shenanigans they'll let you get away with. But I think it might be a pretty interesting option for a little ooze, especially if you can reflavor it as using your own ooze goo as your shaped water. Flavor. I love flavor. I think it's flavorful. Mending again, we've already talked about. Guidance is always a solid spell to have. Anyone who has played Baldur's Gate 3 and has used the version of guidance that can be used as a reaction knows how good it is and that you always want it, even without the ability to use it as a reaction in 5e. Still a very, very powerful spell that you'll want to be using at all opportunities, on as many skill rolls as possible, to the point where the DM will be really sick of hearing you ask, can I use guidance with that? Which is, I think we're getting there. I think the DM is going to crack. We're working on it. But it's usually assumed that if it's not a spontaneous in-the-moment thing, you can always use guidance. At least on our table. I should stop caveating everything. Of course, it's at our table. Long Strider. Long Strider just gives you extra movement. I think it's 10 extra feet, and it lasts for an hour. It is not concentration, which means you can cast it and then rage afterwards and have that extra movement to move around the battlefield. That is a really strong contender for me, I think. I love the mobility. Healing Word comes up again, so that's an option in both Bard and Druid. There's going to be a couple of repeating spells because that's how the spell table works, but you can kind of pick your favorites from a set rather than going through the whole spell table this way. Jump, also useful utility, gets you somewhere high quick. Goodberry I thought was a very interesting option. You can use it at the start of the day. You have your pocket full of good berries, you need to pick someone up, you can put a berry in their mouth and make them swallow it, or you need a top up on your health, and it also has the bonus of satisfying your hunger for the day. Now, my barbarian build does have the outsider background, which means most of the time I can just hunt for food, but if it is not an environment that would normally have food, that could be very useful for seeing me through. Warlock, I put Blade Ward again. I didn't mean to. I keep confusing that with Sword Burst, which is a very different spell. I talked about yesterday why I don't really like that, why it seems like a little bit of a trap unless you're an Eldritch Knight fighter, in which case you can like use that and then still attack on your turn. Booming Blade is one of my Arcane Rogue's favorite spells. Basically every attack that they use is Booming Blade if possible. It's just a solid damage increase to your regular attacks, and you have the chance, if an enemy moves after you've hit them, they are sort of warded with sonic energy, so if they move, they go boom. And it's really satisfying to take an enemy who's fleeing away from you, take them out like that. So hit them with Booming Blade, they're low on health, they run, you get an attack of opportunity, you take them down to like really critical health, and as they run, they just explode. That's always fun. I put down Eldritch Blast because it is arguably the best cantrip in the game. It is not super suitable for this particular build because I only have a +1 to charisma. That is better than nothing, but it would still be a pretty low spell attack bonus. Not no spell attack bonus, just kind of on the low side. So it's kind of a maybe to that. As you get more bolts, you have a better chance of hitting. But I'm not sold on Eldritch Blast for this particular build. I think Green Flame Blade, that's also a pretty good one. It's not quite AoE and it's not quite single target. Initially, I think at your first couple of levels, because damaging cantrips usually level up with you. At the first level, when you hit an enemy, a spout of flame will come from your sword and hit another enemy within 5 feet of your opponent. And then as it levels up, it'll add damage to your first attack on an opponent and then additional damage to the fire that is spouted out. So it is a pretty solid, not quite single target, but not quite AoE. It's kind of a two hit. Mage Hand I have gone over. Prodigitation I have gone over. Now we get to Sword Burst. There we go. This is the spell I was looking at. Much like Thunderclap, I think it is very nice to have an AoE cantrip. So if you are surrounded by enemies on all 9 squares, that is 9 chances to do damage on enemies. Even if you only hit 2 or 3 of them, you might be doing more total damage than you would with a single attack. So it could be situational, but I always think it's good to have some sort of AoE damage in the bag, especially if you're a frontline melee like a barbarian. For spells, Armor of Agathis is a very solid level 1 pick. Gives you some extra health or temporary health. When that temporary health is damaged, the opponent takes, I think, frost damage in equal amount to the damage taken. Very solid choice at first level. I think the health alone is pretty good at first level, but as you level up and start facing more difficult or higher health enemies, it is not going to have great returns on that, TBH. Arms of Hadar, this is purely for flavor because of the plasmoid race. The lashing out with a tentacle, I just think, is kind of really suiting the character. Doesn't really have any massive bonuses to this particular build except for flavor, but it's so suitable to a plasmoid that I kind of had to include it as well. Expeditious Retreat is a very underrated spell. Essentially what that does is it gives you the rogue's bonus action dash ability for, I believe, a minute. I'd have to double check that. But yeah, that is super useful. It is, as you can tell by the name, it's sort of a run away from stuff spell, which is one way a barbarian could use it. But the other option for that is to cast it on another party member. Because definitely when I was going through Cleric, I sort of had the epiphany. It's like, oh, well, I can always cast these spells on other players outside of combat before I rage. So as I went through the list, I kind of had to rethink about that, and it didn't really change the Bard or Druid list, but for the when I got to the Warlock list, and especially the Cleric list, that added a few spells that wouldn't have otherwise made the cut. Hellish Rebuke, I just like the flavor of it, honestly. It's probably not the best spell. If combat is starting and you are the first person hit, you haven't had a chance to rage yet, or it's a surprise round where you've been caught off guard, it's nice to just be able to hit back with a reaction. That's kind of the only reason that's in there. It is not particularly high on the list, but I wanted to keep it as an option. Wizard is the longest collection of options because wizards have so many spells. It is also the main reason sorcerer was just redundant from the list. Again, Blade Ward, just me mixing up that with Sword Burst, so ignore that. A lot of this is going to be covered under other spell lists again, but you get the biggest variety, and you can only pick one class to get all of your spells from, so you kind of have to keep that in mind as well. Booming Blade, Green Flame Blade, Mage Hand, Mending, Message, they've all been covered before. Mind Sliver, I mentioned this in the last stream as well. Mind Sliver is one of the very few spells or options you have to lower an enemy's saving throw. Even if there's a low chance for you to hit with it, sometimes it is worth throwing that out, especially if it's a situation where you're a barbarian in this example, and you are not within melee range, but you still have that. You can still get within that 30 feet to cast Mind Sliver. That could be just what a companion needs to get out a save or suck spell. So it's probably not the highest on the tier list, but I think it does have some utility in that particular regards. And then Prodigitation, Shape Water, Sword Burst, and Thunderclap are all spells we've already gone through. And then for first level spells, there are a couple of repeats here as well. Expeditious Retreat, Featherfall, Find Familiar, that's one of the unique ones for the wizard list. So one of the common tactics is to use the Find Familiar Owl, which has the Flyby ability, and use that to give you a help action to distract enemies and give you advantage on attacks. That is also something my Arcane Trickster rogue uses, so I don't know if I want to do that again with another character straight away. They are a Booming Blade, Find Familiar Owl user. That's their sort of build. So it is a really powerful option. I personally don't know if I don't want to do the exact same build over and over though, if you know what I mean. Grease, this is one of the suggestions from one of the player/GMs who I actually play with IRL. They will be one of the players in this particular campaign for this barbarian, and this is kind of their favorite signature spell, both as a DM and a player. They have ruined my plans multiple times with Grease. When I was DMing, they used Grease, and a particularly hard encounter I had set up became Child's Play. Another time when I was a player, a cleric, I ended up spending most of the combat on my butt because I was defeated by Grease and a locked door. Basically, enemy kept poking their head out of the door. They cast Grease right outside. I kept falling on it. They closed the door and locked it. I couldn't break the door down. They had like they had an area above the door where they could shoot down from. I failed an athletics, I think twice, or an acrobatics. I failed an athletics and acrobatics, I think, and I got a nat 1 on one of them, so I ended up on my what? But I was gonna bring my nat 1 up, but once again my hotkeys have stopped working. Try reconnecting. Nope. It's very frustrating. We'll finish this off and then I'll restart StreamerBot again. Really, if anyone knows about StreamerBot and they can tell me a way to fix that, I would very much appreciate that. Okay. Yes, Grease. Super useful spell. Covers an area in Greece. I believe it's dex saves when walking through it to stop yourself from slipping and going prone. So particularly powerful and particularly annoying if you are on the other end of it. Jump we covered, long strider we covered. Shield, similar and almost opposite to Hellish Rebuke. So if you are in a surprise encounter and you're the one who is surprised, or if an enemy is going to hit you first, you have the chance to use a reaction once a day before you rage if you take shield, and you know, a +5 to your AC is nothing small. I believe with unarmored defense this barbarian has a 15 AC, so that would boost them from a 15 to a 20, which is pretty significant, especially level 1, and as they level up and increase their AC later in the game, that will still be useful. Having 1 shield per day though, and not being able to use it while raging is a little bit makes me a little bit unsure of that spell. For any other class, it's a really good spell. My Hexblade uses shield like there is no tomorrow at every possible opportunity to not take damage. At least until they get Hex Shield. Is that what it's called? Basically a 50-50 chance to not take damage with a reaction. It's a later ability in the Hexblade subclass. Silvery Barbs, already mentioned, perfect spell, no notes, it's perfection. Next up is the Cleric class, the last class I have listed, and we have Guidance, already mentioned, Mending, already mentioned, and Thaumaturgy. I don't know if I mentioned that, but they're like visual effects, sound effects, things like that. There's probably some utility to using it in game. I just love it for being able to add the little touches of flavor to describing things. You know, effects on your characters, how your character's eyes look, bishy flakes, all of the hotkey toggles I can't use right now on my model that would be perfect examples. But yeah, like the dark eyes I currently have, you could do that for an intimidation roll. When I DM, and I know for certain one of the other DMs who does circumstantial bonuses, they would definitely give you a bonus for doing something like that to your roll, or, you know, against the opponent's roll, like a -1 or -2. Healing Word, we have covered that. It's the best and probably only ranged healing option you will get with this. Probably the only level 1 ranged healing option available, I think, unless there is an ability in a class I can't quite think of. Sanctuary and Shield of Faith. Both of these I've thought of not because they would be useful for my barbarian, but because they could be useful for using on an ally, especially in a situation where a fight is not going well and you need to protect and keep safe your squishy wizard or your somewhat squishy bard. And that is how I've broken it down. I'm probably going to share this on this little table on the Discord if people want to further chat on it or break it down or make other suggestions or tell me I'm a silly goose for not including a cantrip or a spell from a specific class, or tell me why I shouldn't have included sorcerers, or anything, whatever you think. If you are watching this VOD on YouTube on an upload afterwards, also feel free to shout at me and tell me why I am wrong. And I will tell you I am not wrong because I worked for Blizzard, and as I understand the internet, that is how things work. I cannot be wrong. Okay. Gonna take a sec to relaunch StreamerBot again. Set this up so I wouldn't have to use hotkey buttons on my keyboard to get my hotkey effects, and now it just does not work how I wanted. It does for a while. There we go. Okay. Yes, I said nat one earlier. There we go. Now I can actually bring it up. Oh. My toggles have lighting as well. Neat. Okay. Headphones are also coming off. Everything is going great. Okay. What was next? Oh. No, I'm not making a final decision on it. Just to let you all know. I might later in the chat or in the Discord let you know what I pick, and maybe I'll mention it in the stream again, but for now we are closing the Magic Initiate for Barbarian, Magic Initiate feat for Barbarian topic, because I've spent way too long talking about it in way too much detail, to the point I'm tired of it. So we're moving on from that now. It is gone forever. But we are not moving on from this barbarian because I think what we're going to do is set up some macros. I like to set up pretty much everything I need to roll in macros for my characters, and then I will use a spreadsheet with all of my spell slots and abilities, so then I essentially don't need to look at the actual sheet. I find it super useful in Roll20, and I'm just going to show you a couple of things. Oh, I forgot to whisper. I forgot this was going to be our chill whisper stream, so I've kind of gone to my normal voice level. So we're gonna quiet down a little bit again and try to keep that in mind and see if we can keep that going for the rest of the stream. So apologies if I blew out anyone's eardrums who are watching the VOD. So this is our barbarian cat, and token is not currently interactable. That is disappointing, but we can still set things up. Let me show you. So this is another game that we are currently playing. This is campaign 2. If you were watching the previous VOD, this barbarian is for Campaign 3, set in this world. Campaign 2 isn't over yet. So what we usually do is, if you have your token under your control and you have this little cog here, you can create these little bars like so, and you can... Oh, I got a ping. What did that mean? Did someone follow? Did someone watch? What's going on? Who dat? Who's there? Distracted me. Where is Twitch? Oh, thank you for the follow, Ryokin886. I really appreciate that. Thank you for following. That got me off topic a little bit. Back to talking about Roll20. Okay, so in our games we tend to use the green bar for health, the blue bar for AC. The DM can all see those at a glance, and also enabling the bar by filling in the second one with the maxes helps a lot. And then if you have something like Shield of Faith or something on a paladin, then you can change the values here and it'll still keep this as the total set. If you go above your regular health or your armor, you get this little plus symbol, so it can kind of remind you that, oh, I have Shield of Faith, so you don't forget to take that off when it runs out. Now you can see, I'll take the actual game off the screen because that's a distraction. I do want to click on the token though, so I have this bar at the top. So when you click on your token, you can have a bar come up at the top that'll show some macros, and then you can have other macros set to be showing all the time. You make your macros in this little section here with these three little symbols on the top right of Roll20. And I have essentially everything set up, so let's do that for Cat. So skill rolls. So I'm just going to copy and paste skill rolls first, and then I will explain it afterwards. So let's add a macro. I'm going to call it skill rolls. And then we're going to copy the whole text, and then I will explain how it actually works so I don't have to write everything out. Why did my mouth stop moving? I think it's the angle I'm at right now. I'm kind of sitting on the floor. Well, don't worry about it. We won't worry about it. Okay. Okay, explaining how the actual macro code works. Let's make this a little bigger. Okay. So some of this is just text and some of it is calculation. I'm going to put in /talk to myself in the chat in Roll20. Hang on. You can't see it because it's behind my chair. I'm gonna move that first. Okay, so if you put in /talk to myself in Roll20 and you hit enter, that's not the right command. I'm sure it was. /talk, maybe it's one command. There we go. You are talking to yourself. Chat messages and dice rolls will not be broadcast to yourself until you turn off. Use /talk to myself off to do that. Okay, so now anything for this session that comes up in the chat box, it won't be seen by the DM and the other players, and that means we can test everything out without filling up the whole bar here with endless spam. Okay, and then what will I go with first? Okay, so the first part is just text, skill roll 4, and then we have a little bit of code. So we have question mark, square bracket, choose a skill, and then we can list out all of our different skills, their ability source, like dex, wisdom, int, strength, then the actual skill itself, and we do that, those two asterisks just bold, so it'll output in bold, then square bracket, your actual dice calculation, and then close square bracket, and then space downline, which is shift, and then it's usually down on the bottom left of your keyboard. It's probably not a symbol you use very often. And basically you keep using the downward line at the end of each list you want to do. So it's question mark and downward line that are essentially the code that make the list work. And when you get down to the bottom, it's just a curly bracket. So down here is a curly bracket, and up here is a curly bracket, and that's what's making everything inside is our list. You cannot make a list within a list. I have tried it. You can't do or statements, and you can't do if statements, but there are some ways to work around those, and in a more organized stream I'll go through that and tell you how to do it. But for now I'm just going to do the very, very basic macros, and we'll try to get through this. Be a nice chill thing to do. So when you use the macro, when you click the button, you should get up something like this. Choose a skill, and then as we have them all listed up here, acrobatics, dex, animal handling, whiz, you can see they're all on the list here. When you choose one, so we choose history int. If we look at history int, that is what came up on our list here. If I click submit, it will output this part before the downward line. So it'll output history, and then it will roll 1d20, and it will add 5 to that. So I can do that right now. And the talking to yourself little bit of text there that comes up is in the way, so we can't see it. So I'm just gonna do it again so we can actually see the first example. So we'll roll another history. It doesn't matter too much. I could have just put in any text. Okay. So yeah, it came out just how I said. Skill roll 4. Skill roll 4. It outputs that piece of text. Then it checks your list, which is choose a skill, and then we have our different options here. And then it rolled 1d20 plus 5, which you can see right here. It rolled 1d20 plus 5, and it bolded the text because there's 2 asterisks on either side of the output text. So then I can go to my barbarian stat because I'm lazy and I just want to copy and paste them, and then we can go through them real quick and make sure put it halfway across so we can have both on screen at the same time. And then we can just put in +1 in dex. So change that to a 1. Animal handling is a +2. Arcane is not a minus, it is a +0. Or we could just leave it without the +0. It shouldn't make any difference to the calculation. When it is outputted, it should just show 1d20 +0, but adding 0 to something doesn't change the number, so that should be fine. Athletics is a 5 because we have proficiency in it. So we have +2 proficiency, +3 strength, 3 + 2 = 5. That's basic math. That's a math fact. Deception is a 1. We're getting that from our 1 charisma. History is a 0. Insight is also a 0. Intimidation, we're also getting from charisma, which is +1. Investigation is a 0. Medicine should also be 0. Nature is a +2. Perception, one of the most powerful skills in the game, so I always recommend putting either your proficiency bonus or expertise into perception. Is... why did I put 3? It's a 2. Performance is a +1. Persuasion is also +1. You might see that that was +11. That is because this is coming with a max charisma from the max charisma hexblade that I was copy and pasting this from. My general thing is don't write code if you can just copy and paste it and make edits. That is probably not good and probably not professional, but I imagine most people avoid doing extra work if they can. Sleight of hand, I have a point in dex, this is a 1, yeah. And stealth is also a 1. And you might notice I have KL1 written after the dice roll there, 2d20 KL1, and that is keep lowest roll, because the character I copied this from, they are wearing plate and they have disadvantage on stealth rolls. So this character does not have plate. They are using unarmored defense, so they don't have disadvantage. So we are going to roll 1d20, and we are not going to have KL1 because we do not want to keep lowest roll. And it is a +1. So that is something very useful in Roll20, is they do have keep lowest and keep highest of a number of rolls. There are a few tricks you can use that for. For 5e in particular, probably the best thing is automatically doing advantage or disadvantage without any extra work or coding. You can just 1d or 2d20 KL1 or KH1 is advantage, and 2d20 KL1, keep lowest one, is disadvantage. I knew that from the top of my head. I didn't have to look it up. Are you proud of me, Mom? Survival is +2. Perfect. And that is everything we need for our skill rolls. So let's save that, save changes. Go back to our skill rolls. Now, what I normally do is click show as token action, but because I do not currently have access to any of the tokens in this game yet, I haven't been given control of any, there is no way for me to see it on screen at the moment. I am going to turn it on for now, but I'm going to turn it on in the bar so you guys can see it right now, and I'll be turning it off on the bar later. But we can just go back to chat. Now, whenever we have to do a skill roll, click skill rolls, pick your skills, and everything is there. Give me an insight. Insight. Roll. We got a 12. 12 plus 0 because we don't have any points in it. That's another reason I like to put in the plus 0 instead of not putting anything, because it just makes it mentally clearer for me that I don't have anything to add to that. One of the other DMs I play with, depending on the role and situation, he might let you add proficiency to it. So, you know, it's good to know I have plus 0 and then I can add proficiency plus 2 instead. Yeah. So that is skill rolls, how I set that up. I also, in a very similar way, set up my save rolls. That will be essentially the same. And initiative is also something I always set up. So let us find saving throws. This actually probably would have been an easier example to go through because it's a bit shorter than the very long skill list. So let's call it saving throws. And let's put in our code from our paladin from a different game, our Hexblade paladin, and let's change it so it works for our barbarian. So we go through the code again. It's essentially the same thing. Might as well do it real quickly. Might make a short out of it. Who knows? Probably will re-record it completely if I do a couple of shorts on macros. So we have question mark, open curly bracket, choose a save, and then we have the straight line symbol, and that creates a list. Then we have what will be on our list, which is the first part before the comma. So it's when I click on test macro, it's going to list strength, dex, con, int, wisdom, and charisma on a list. Test macro, there you go. Strength, dex, con, int, wisdom, charisma. And then when you choose an item for the list, so I choose con, then comma, it'll do this part of the code, which is Constitution in bold, because we have two asterisks at either side of the word. So it'll say Constitution in bold, saving throw, and then it will roll 1d20 plus 7. And we're just going to change these numbers for our barbarian. If you are in the chat and have any questions about it, please say so. If not, that is fine. I will just continue to go through it. And 0 for our intelligence save, and 0 for our wisdom save, and I accidentally deleted a square bracket, so we'll put that back in. And a +1 for our charisma save. That was a 16. That's ridiculous. That is because of the level 5, or is it level 4, or is it level 6 paladin aura that lets you add your charisma to your saves. So all of those saves had an additional +5 because there was maxed out charisma. And we can move this to the side, go back to the chat, and then test out the macros. So strength, and I got a nat 1. That's hey, my hotkeys worked. Nice. Okay. Yeah, you can see here. I chose STR strength from the list, and then it outputted strength in bold. There it is right there, strength in bold. Saving throw. There it is right there, just a string of text. And then in square brackets, 2 square brackets, and then 2 closed square brackets, it has the actual dice math. 1d20 plus 3. If you are in the Discord server, I do have Dice Maiden installed, which means you can roll dice in the server. And as far as I know, Dice Maiden uses Roll20's dice rolling API. So it is basically the same system, the same math, and the same I've forgotten the word for it. Math and coding word. This is how long it has been. Syntax. The Discord uses the same syntax as well, or can use the same syntax as well. Oh, my brain and words. But I got there. I got there in the end, guys. So that's our saving throw. Perfect. Happy with that. Brilliant. We will do initiative. I think initiative is a very simple one. I probably don't need to copy and paste it, but yeah, initiative is so simple. I am gonna copy and paste it, but I'm gonna show you how simple it is. So going to macros, going to add a macro, going to paste in this bit of code and type in initiative, initiative. Hi. And our initiative is actually a +1 because we have 1 dex. Nice. Okay, so when we click this button, it's not going to bring up a list for us to choose. It is just going to output straight away rolling initiative, and then 1d20 plus 1 in double square brackets. And to show you that, test macro. See, no list came up. It went straight to the chat because there was no sort of list for it to go through. So it popped straight up. So that is initiative, saving throw, skill roll, and I think what we'll do is attack, and then we will do one for weapons. So we'll do attack, and we'll do damage, and we'll do a list for weapons, the different weapon options we have. So right now we only have a great club, but I'm going to add two-handed axe. I'm going to add great club with rage. I'm going to add the two-handed axe with rage. Don't don't think I need anything else at the moment because I don't have any weapons and I haven't chosen the spells for the Magic Initiate feat yet. So I will probably just do those two things then. Okay, let's add a new one. I'm just going to very quickly check what color I use for it because I use green for attack. Okay. I'll show you how to change the color of the buttons at the bottom in a second. Call it attack, and it is strength. Okay. Attack. Make it a little nicer. Cash rolls to attack, and we'll make that bold, and then we will roll 2 square brackets, 1d20 plus 5 is what she has to hit, and then 2 close square brackets, and that is pretty much good to go. We go into our chat and do a quick test macro. Cat rolls to attack, rolls an 18. Oh, that's a hit. Come on, that's got to be a hit. 18, nice. That's very nice. Okay. We don't have reckless attack yet. Do we want to do a list for that at the start? Let me just pick the saving throw list and let me see if we can get that working, because it's just going to be advantage, but it'll let me show you what was it, take highest roll, keep highest 1, I believe was. Okay, so we'll change this to choose an attack instead of choose a save. Make this normal attack. Make this one reckless. Is that with a W or an R? I think reckless attack is with an R. Reckless attack. We're gonna take cat's attack here, and we're gonna cut it, and we're gonna replace this little bit in here. I'm gonna leave a space just to give it some room. We're also gonna replace this one here. Okay, and what we're gonna do is gonna get rid of all of this, but what we have to do is close our list on the other end. So we will turn this straight line at the end into a curly bracket. Okay, and now when I hit test macro, we have normal attack or reckless attack. And we want this to be at advantage because reckless attack lets you attack at advantage, and then I think the next enemy attack on you has advantage. I would have to double check that. I've not played Barbarian yet at level 1. So we're going to put we're going to change this to roll 2d20 and then keep a highest 1, and that should give advantage, and I can show you then. So we're going to test roll a reckless attack. Okay, and we can highlight the actual math, and that is just behind my sleepy grizzly bean down here at the bottom. So let's move that. So cat rolls to attack, and then it rolled 2d20. It took the highest of the two, keep highest one, KH1, and then added 5 to it. So that is 15 plus 5, which is 20. It dropped the 9, which was the lower roll, and you can see that the 9 is grayed out there out of the 2 d20s it rolled. That all makes sense. And then the last thing I want to do, cat rolls, we'll change this to a reckless attack. So then we have text both in the output as well that says that we attacked recklessly. If I wanted to go the next level as well, I would probably put in more information on how reckless attack works, just so the DM can have an easier time keeping track of it as well. So I would put something like next attack on cat by opponent has advantage, just to keep everything nice and trackable and clean for the DM and myself. But I don't want to do that right now. I want to do the damage macro, and I'm going to make that a list as well. So I'm just going to steal this. Since I already have a list made, then I could just change the text inside. So we'll save that change. We will add attack to the bar, and then to change the color of your buttons down at the bottom here, you right click on color, and attack is this nice peaceful calm green. That's the one I want. And you can reorder them by grabbing the side of them there. There's a little box that pops up that lets you move them around. I don't want skill rolls to appear on my bar. I'll put that on the token, and when you click on the token, it'll come up along the top there. You can also, I mentioned I'm using talk to yourself. By typing in /talk to myself, all of the commands are only visible to me. So you can, if you don't have that on and you're just playing the game, if you can't find where you've put your macro button, or you can't click on your token because it's hidden from you, you can go into your list, find your macro that you currently want to use, and then if you use test macro from there, it will show up in the chat for everyone else. So test macro doesn't hide it. You have to hide the chat first with a separate option to talk to myself. I hope that is nice and clear. Okay, we did attack, so we will do damage. And I will scratch my nose. Okay, I do a generic attack and damage button, because I will know what they mean, and I'm the only one who will be able to see them, so I'm the only one it matters to, and it usually just covers the basic attacks that I will be doing. So this, we are going to make a slightly longer list. We're going to have 4 entries into it. So instead of moving around the curly bracket, I'm just going to take the line before and 1, 2. So we have 4 items on our list, and now we want to change what they all say. We will want it to tell us what the weapon is. So this is an attack with our great club. The next one will be great club. Rage. Next one we will put battle axe. We don't have a battle. I don't have a battle axe yet. I currently only have a great club on this character, but that was the pre-session, so hopefully I will be able to find or upgrade the weapon at the start. But I don't know if the DM will just give me the weapon I want. I have to wait and see. I imagine he would just give me a battle axe in this particular scenario where they are going to a hero academy, and it seems like standard weapons are pretty readily available. So I did not want to put great club there. Call this battle axe rage. Okay. Cash attacks. Cat attacks with the great club. And then we want to change the math in here because the damage will not be d20, it will be 1d8 plus 3. Yeah, we have 3 strength, and 1d8 is the great club, two-handed great club's damage, is a strength weapon. Okay, let's copy that text and put it into the next line. And it doesn't matter if this is pushed down onto the next line, it'll still work absolutely fine as long as the syntax is all in the right order. So this could all be on one line, but that would make it much harder to read. Okay, and we'll flavor the text a little bit here. And in enraged cat attacks with a great club, and then attack in bold, and then 1d8, and our additional rage damage is 2, so that should be a total of 5 when we are raging at level 1. And I'm just gonna double check. Rage damage is +2. Yes, so 3 strength and 2 bonus for rage is 5. Perfect. And then we want something similar again. I must have covered up. I don't think I need attack in that with the asterisks. Maybe we will bold the weapon itself and put in capitalization. Great club. And we'll do the same here. Just to keep it consistent, we will capitalize the first letters. Okay. And then we do similar to the next line. We'll place all of the text. We will change this to battle axe, or is it great axe? I think it might be great axe. We'll call it battle axe for now. It's easy to pop in and change a macro. It's the exact same process. You just click into it and change the text and click save changes when you're done. So it is not too big a deal if we get some things wrong here. So that will be a D12 plus 3, and Rage Cat attacks with a, just be changing the name of the weapon there. Hey, great club. Okay, we have a bit more to change here though. 1d12 plus 5 because we are raging. Okay, and then let's go to the chat window and let's give this a test to make sure it all works. So we have Great Club with Rage, we have Battle Axe with Rage. So let's roll them all to make sure they work. Test, and test. Okay, Cat rolls to attack 20. Cat attacks with the Great Club. It was 1d8 plus 3, 6 damage. Enraged Cat attacks with the Great Club. We got a 1d8 plus 5, yep. 1d12 plus 3 and 1d12 plus 5. Perfect. So that is all set up and good to go. It's unfortunate that I don't have a clickable token right now. Otherwise, I'd show you a couple of other things you could do. Let me have a quick look and see if there's anything else we want to set up on our macros. We can't put health and armor on the token right now. The Wanderer feature of Outlander, just above me here, that doesn't have any rolls. I don't think there's anything else we need. We don't even actually have reckless attack yet. I just wanted to set that up as an example. We only have unarmored defense and rage as level 1 barb. We have a couple of cool abilities as a plasmoid, but none of those are things we have to roll for either. We have resistance to poison and acid, and we have advantage against saving throws to being poisoned. And plasmoid features, is there anything we have to roll for there? Let me get those just above my head so you can see. Can squeeze through gaps as small as 1 inch as long as we don't have equipment on. We could hold our breath for an hour. We can change our shape, and we can exude a pseudopod. Nope, there is nothing there that requires a roll. For a very basic level 1 character. I think that's pretty much everything you need. Ability rolls. Roll plus mod. Roll plus mod is a very generic. Do I have it here? Well, I have to have it here. It's the list of macros. QRS. So it has to be here? Roll plus mod? Where did you go? Huh. I don't know. It's literally just a D20 and then you put in a number. It's really unnecessary. It is just as easy to go to the advanced roller, I imagine. But if you want to set something like that up, you can. There are a couple of cool macros. I don't know if I want to go into all of them right now. So I have skill rolls and skill rolls with guidance. Guidance literally just adds a 1d4 to a skill roll. So skill roll plus guidance is just a list the same as the skill rolls I showed you earlier. but it puts a +1 d4 into the math for you. So, you just click the button that says with guidance on it to do your skill roll. Now, this is one thing I did, you can see here, because I was quite fond of the Spirit Shroud spell. It is not the best spell, but it is quite a fun one. It was very flavorful. I say that a lot. I just love characters that are a thematic. Thematic is also something I've said a lot. So what I did here was instead of creating one list where you choose the level, what I did was I created a macro for each level and then had another macro that made a list that let you choose between the other macros. So you can create a sort of sublist, but you can't put a list inside any of the macros in your sublist, or else the whole thing breaks and falls apart, and it just won't, the code just won't work after the first level, after the first layer. It just falls apart. So wherever I have my Spirit Shroud macro, here it is. So this Spirit Shroud macro is just a list, and the two items on that list are two other macros, and the two other items within the list cannot be lists themselves, but it can make it a little bit cleaner. It does mean you'll have more macros, but if you know this is the way you've set it up, then it makes it easier to edit and change them later. I'll show you my cure wounds in a second that I did something slightly different with, where you can just put in the level of the spell and it will output the correct calculation for that. But in this case, this will bring up a list. If I choose third level from that list, it will run the macro, which is you put in with a hashtag and then you put in the name of the macro, and then it'll run that macro. So if I choose third level, it will run Spirit Shroud third level. If I click the fourth level from the list, it'll run the macro Spirit Shroud fourth level. And then inside these two macros, there is just text, and there is like square bracket, and some calculations like dice rolls and numbers, and it just outputs that as text. So I can show you the test macro. So you can just choose third or fourth, and then if I choose fourth and I click submit, what it will do is it will find this macro, Spirit Shroud fourth level, and then it will just run this macro as part of that list. So it'll say Spirit Shroud in bold, a ghostly hand of, and then it is the dice roll for it. So 3d8, and then re-roll anything less than 2. That is from the Great Weapon Master Feat, don't worry about it. Damage type, necrotic, radiant, cold. You get to choose that, so you can just declare it. Damage grips your soul. Target can't regain health and speed reduced by 10 feet. So it does the spell, it tells you what damage it does. You can tell the DM what type from the list of types listed. You actually choose your type when you first cast the spell, and this is just for when you do damage with the spell, and the spell lasts for 1 minute. yeah. So the other thing I was going to show was Cure Wounds. The macro for this one I think is quite cool. This has is that a curly bracket inside? So the square brackets here and the square brackets here sort of seal a little bit of input request and calculation. So it'll say, what'll come up on the actual chat itself is cure wounds, and then it'll do question mark D8 plus 5. And what it does to get that question mark is it asks you for level of spell there, and then it'll say healing incoming at the end as text. I'll show you the macro, test macro. See, this level of spell is exactly what is coming up here, and this question mark here is basically a variable. So if I put 4, so I cast Cure Wounds at 4th level, then it will take this 4 as the question mark, the variable, and it will become 4d8 plus 5. And then it just calculates it out. So you get your Cure Wounds, 4d8 plus 5, healing incoming. There you go, that's it. I don't want to test it in this game because I haven't turned off talking to everyone in the chat. Okay. What else? That is most of what I wanted to... Oh, there's Roll Plus Mod. This is probably a better example of that exact thing I had just said there. Rolling a 1d20 plus question mark, and then curly bracket modifier 0, and then you can put in whatever number you want there, and that'll replace the question mark, and then it'll be d20 plus, say, d20 plus 5. Let's get rid of the 0. So if I hit submit, the 5, the question mark becomes a 5, and the d20 is added to the 5. So it'll just say rolling a, I don't know, if the d20 rolls a 10 and I add 5, that's 15. I think it's fairly straightforward. If you want more of a breakdown, speak now or forever hold your peace. I'm looking at the chat. Not seeing anything. Okay. I think everyone's happy then. I think everybody's happy with that. Ooh. Okay. Let's get rid of that. Let's push everything there back in the box. Other thing I was going to think about is live encounters that I wanted to chat to. I guess it's more productive to talk about it in the Discord because I can get some feedback. Or is it worth talking about? I guess I can rough out the plan here. What I want to do with that, live encounters. Okay. Let me paint you a mind picture. Clear your mind. Relax, clear your mind. Relax your shoulders. Just let them go. Just relax your shoulder muscles. Stretch your neck while I paint you a mind picture. Okay. So, my idea for this live encounters thing, we will need chatters or a couple more people in the Discord before I can actually progress with doing this. But the rough idea is maybe once a stream or once a week during a stream, we get a couple of players. It might be a redeem, or it might be a specific group of people in my Discord who want to do it and volunteer, or we could draw straws for it. Basically, we have a little D&D event where I DM live, and 3 or 4 or so players will have D20 open up on the screen here. We will have maybe a specific Discord chat that only those players are invited to, and we just play a little sort of D&D scenario in the dungeon, give them all control over a token, maybe make them all grizzly beans or something like that. I think since we're making a grizzly bean monster stat block and a grizzly bean player stat block, that kind of fits reasonably well in with sort of expanding the dungeon and the lore and what I want to do on the stream. So we have 3 or 4 Discord and or stream members, or maybe like stream members who are in the Discord. Whatever way it works out, it doesn't matter too much. And live on stream, I just DM a little scenario. Maybe adventurers making their way down into the dungeon, and you have to stop them. Maybe the boss, am currently streaming on Twitch, and you have to stop the adventurers from interrupting me, so you have like a round or 2 to lay traps or turn traps on, or I don't know, I'll set up some things on a map and you get to investigate and interact with them, and maybe like if you figure out such and such a switch, you can turn on some spike traps to try and slow them down. And yeah, that's kind of the rough thought I'm having. I kind of need to sit down and get a few more things on paper, I think. But that's more or less ish. Thoughts, ideas? Does it seem like a good idea? You can let me know. Anything else? Not sure. Give me a sec. Clicked on the wrong thing. Okay. Yeah, so live scenarios are definitely something I want to, or live encounters. I don't know, I need to solidify the name for it. I need to make it a brand thing. Because I don't know anyone who does that specifically, like runs like a live mini D&D game for their watchers. So yeah, I'll solidify that a little bit more. I kind of know the layout I want for it, so I know how it's going to look on screen, but I don't know the practical parts of it. I know I want to set up a channel on the Discord. How do I do that? How do I make sure only the very specific people who are invited? What do I do if what if I do 4 people want to play it, but then one has to suddenly go? Should I have subs or alternates? Should I just play with whoever shows up? What if no one shows up? Stuff like that. Practical stuff. Okay. Thursday, we are playing Dragon Age Origin. I think I'm gonna go with the main campaign first, and we will slowly make our way through that, and then we will do all of the fun DLC and extra parts to that. There were some really cool scenarios, like one character's pre-story. There was a what-if scenario where you play the Darkspawn, the bad guys. Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that. I think I decided that I'm gonna have a good bash at looking at mods to update the graphics a little bit, make it a little bit cleaner and crisper. I think I mentioned before, I do have it up and running. There are a couple of graphical issues. One of them is whenever you kill, because I did a test run in one of the DLCs, but I haven't saved anything, I haven't played properly, just like the first 10 minutes. Whenever you kill someone, it leaves a little red square underneath them instead of a blood splatter, which is what's supposed to be there. So that's something I want to fix. And, you know, the usual, you're walking towards a building and parts of it are like glitching in and out, which does not make for good viewing for epileptics. So I believe there are a few straightforward graphics and stability mods that can fix those. I just was deciding and have decided that I'll go a little bit further to make the game look a little bit nicer. That's the plan. Yep. And that, I believe, is everything I had for this stream, unless someone suddenly pops into the chat. No. Or? No. Yeah, that's pretty much everything I think I have in my brain to talk about. Yeah. So, join me for Dragon Age Inquisition on Thursday. Yeah. That's actually it. So I am going to stop streaming now. Thank you so much, Ryokin, for the follow. Every follow gets me a little closer to the 25 followers I need for, what's it called on Twitch? Associate? No. Affiliate, that's the word. Every follow gets me a little closer to affiliate. The requirements went down from 50 to 25, but I still do need 3 average viewers over 4 streams or something like that. I'd have to double check the math. It'll say on the side when I wrap up the stream. Have a good night. I am having a decent amount of fun streaming. Sorry, the topics have been a little bit dry. I am struggling a little bit talking to myself. But we'll work on that. Bye. Good night. Take care of yourself. And have a good week. And you are definitely going to watch me on Thursday playing Dragon Age for sure. Totally. By listening to this, you have legally agreed to do so.